Baby man, little baby, little baby man, little baby, baby man, little baby, baby man.
Throughout Berserk, the sidecast that surrounds Guts has expanded so much ever since Puck entered his life. After losing the people he cherished most to an unforeseen tragedy and dooming him to travel down the path of revenge, Guts had wandered the world alone and fell victim to his own violent urges. After Puck, he slowly but surely started to soften his approach, letting other people into his life again. Berserk is ultimately about pushing through adversity, but in Guts' case specifically, it's overcoming trauma and finding a purpose and place to belong thereafter. Guts' party, as comically large as it is now, changed Guts for the better. It gave him the family he truly wanted in life, something he thought he would never have again. Yet there are two party members I want to highlight for highly specific but incredibly different reasons, despite one core connection. Instead of analyzing the highly complex inner workings of Farney's and Serpico's relationship, the trauma she's overcome, and the path she's allowed herself to travel as a budding mage, we instead turn to her teacher, and the gremlin monkey boy who will not stop bothering her. Yes, the two literal children in Guts' party, two drastically different characters whose chemistry boils down to negging each other and following the coattails of our main protagonist. You could argue it's young love that hasn't fully developed yet, but I think it's a narrow-minded way of viewing these characters and where their journeys can lead. Rather, I feel they serve to provide much more to Berserk than people give them credit for. Birthing into Berserk, something we as an audience and Guts as a character hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. There's not a lot of love for Isidro, inside the fandom or inside his own story. He's a punk kid who gets by on spamming the same move over and over again, rolling around at the speed of stupid as Puck acts as his support. He's often the butt of jokes and far too cocky for his own good, resulting in this weird disdain for his character and upon the end of Berserk's original run, a feeling that he didn't fulfill his true potential. Because Isidro did have character development of focus during some arcs that were cannibalized by other key moments, Isidro has an arc, yet it's not complete in its current state. Rather, in Elfheim, he was left in this limbo where he was both comic relief, but also starting to grow again through speaking with Casca. It makes me wonder what Isidro's arc and general direction could be going forward, because I do like the character and his purpose in Berserk's story. Self-actualization. Isidro's goal in life is to be the best mercenary to ever live, inspired by the tale of Guts' 100-man standoff to rise above his weakness and become someone worthy of praise. That ambition to be somebody originates in what we see as a lonely childhood, without any note of parenthood or love from the village he was raised in. Running away to fulfill his dream and to become stronger, he struggled to survive for at least a year before meeting Guts, getting by on shrewd tactics and using his small stature to his advantage. He's slippery and pragmatic, but still a kid at the end of the day. In a way, he's reminiscent of the members of the Band of the Hawk in their early years. He has the personality of someone like Corcus, trying to attain wealth and esteem due to his low status, with the physical skills and tactics of someone like Judo, especially in terms of accuracy. And although people dislike Corcus and remember his death more than his actual contributions to the Hawk, he served the purpose of showing everyone has a place in the Hawk, not just Guts. Isidro is the same way, at least for the small party Guts built up over the course of Conviction. Isidro's recklessness, regardless of the trouble he got himself in, did have its advantages. His brash personality was offset by his desire to defend the people he grew to care about. And as Guts' student, he isn't taught the same moves Guts has honed since his own rough childhood. He was told to embrace his own strengths, to not copy the greats but refine what he already has. His trickery and bullheaded method of attacking proved to be a worthy asset to Guts, whether it be defending women from the abhorrent trolls of Enoch Village, or his 2 fights against Bonebeard. Isidro realizing he can just roll, slice, and burn things with his dagger may be annoying to see over and over again as his only way of causing damage, but it's something he formulated himself. He learned and kept Guts' lessons to heart, despite not truly respecting him as a person at first, only as swordsman. Isidro's immaturity still held him back from true greatness at times, his childish perversion and lack of tact making him a nuisance during some chapters. That's offset, however, by the simple fact that he is, at the end of the day, just a kid. Despite how annoying Isidro can be with his continued flanderization into comic relief alongside Puck, his potential as both a warrior and a character is still fairly palpable. I still catch myself thinking about his conversation with Morgan at Enoch Village, the guy that gave him the extra sword, angry about Schierke becoming the unofficial leader of the party and a lack of respect for his contributions to their survival. He lashes out at Morgan, an old man who requested their help in the first place to defend their village, for what he perceived as Morgan giving up on his own dream. He believes that, and this is even after he's given Morgan's blade, there's only one road for him in life to travel down. Isidro thinks that his ambition is his end goal, almost like a shonen protagonist that never lets go of their inevitable future. What Isidro doesn't realize in that moment, like many kids his age, is that life doesn't turn out the way we want it to. Sure, some people do achieve their dreams if they're dead set on them and do the necessary steps, but that's never the end point for some people. And if Griffith is anything to go off of, achieving that dream and fulfilling your childhood ambition comes with far more loss than you anticipate, regardless of the end result. Griffith is a great example of this ideology because he's so drastically different than how we first met him. His emotion was drained away by his godhood and calloused by the deaths he caused. His dream came at the cost of everything he used to be. Yet he achieved it. He got his own kingdom. He created a promised land for people to prosper in. The only problem being Griffith is the direct cause of all the hardship that still remains in the world. It's a catch-22. In the case of Isidro, he may not become the best mercenary of all time, but there is potential for greatness within him that was actively fulfilled throughout his journey. If I were to theorize where he may end up if he keeps on the path he's on, he may lose a limb or an eye or something vital in the process of becoming what his ideal is, just like his mentor in a strange way. I don't think he'll become a clone of Guts or give up the blade altogether. I just think that Isidro's journey isn't as clear-cut as we or he even believes. I believe Isidro will become the best version of himself, a short king with a sharp mind that people often underestimate. I believe he'll grow out of his immature urges, but keep his crude sense of humor that often characterized him. I believe he'll become the person worthy of praise he wants to be because he already is. He just doesn't see that in himself, and the people around him undermined his efforts compared to the heavy hitters in the party. After all the fights and pain this ginger nosepicker goes through, Isidro represents how that childhood dream we cherished grows and changes with us. That our ideal self isn't stagnant, just like we are. That throughout our lives, we follow our dreams but become the person we're meant to be by realizing that dream isn't all it's cracked up to be, or if achieving that dream is possible at all. He represents hope for the future, that what Guts leaves behind is a positive impact on the world, and the person he taught even a little bit can become their own person. Not someone defined by their trauma, like Guts often is. Isidro is the son that Guts never really had. His legacy, even though he's less of a son and more of an asshole nephew. I'd love to see the person Isidro becomes. But there's someone else that's been around less than Isidro that's just as, if not more important to Berserk's overall story and themes. Someone who, regardless of their feelings about each other, contributes to the same overall message about overcoming hardship and creating a brighter future. Ever since her first introduction, Schierke marked a shift in both genre and general tone for Berserk. What was once a demon-filled dark fantasy manga with very little reference to traditional Western magic, Schierke became the catalyst for Miura to transition into a wider world he could explore. The general existence of Odd, the astral plane, even the magics that are used by the Kushan and on Elfheim. Everything originates to that shadowy image of Schierke's first tease. It's something I should be thankful for given the heights of the later chapters, but there's far more to Schierke than her being a method Miura used to exposit on his special little magic system. More than anything, she represents an innocence in the world that is seemingly devoid of it, continuing to provide Guts and the rest of the party options they wouldn't have been able to explore prior. A child that was pretty much isolated from the rest of the world, we meet Schierke when Guts has escaped the Tower of Conviction with a small group of stragglers tailing him in its destruction. Among them being Isidro, the only child we could note and the only person other than Serpico who could fight at night to protect Casca. Sealing away the brand of sacrifice's inherent attraction, albeit temporarily, Schierke put into motion a startling shift in Guts' way of doing things. For starters, he could sleep. That one fact, the idea he could get a full night's rest, and even later when he's given a home-cooked meal by her master Flora, was enough to make Schierke's arrival almost too good to be true. Although disaster does strike inevitably, it comes at the cost of Schierke's reality more than it does Guts's. Rather, it affirms the cruel nature of causality and how Guts will never be truly free from his torment. At least for now. Schierke only knows the world inside her little astral bubble and the master who raised her, acting as both a teacher and a mother. Slowly but surely, she worked her way into the main cast, despite some small hiccups, as well as taking a starring role in various different chapters. Saving Enoch Village, bringing Guts back to sanity, speaking with Skull Knight, and returning to Elfheim. Without Schierke, we wouldn't have had the Berserker armor, or Farnese's development into her own person, or even the return of Casca's sanity. Schierke by herself was a catalyst to create new and interesting scenarios, furthering the development and faith of everybody in the party. Guts trusts her with the most difficult of tasks because she's more than proven her ability to handle them. Her master even recognized this before and after her death and entrusted her with her legacy as she forced Schierke into the cold reality that is Berserk's world. Before Schierke, it was a fight every night to stay alive, and the thought of a chance to achieve Guts' goal was all too slim. Now it's more than a reality as we're about to return to serialization, Schierke taking center stage as we soon face Griffith's demonic armies. Schierke, more than anyone, represents a possible victory over adversity, a key to a brighter tomorrow. The only person who seemingly doesn't believe that, or at least doesn't consciously acknowledge that, is herself and, well, Isidro. These two are meant for tension. One is a country bumpkin who doesn't know the meaning of the word shower, and the other is a bookworm who never left the comfort of their childhood home, only dreaming about the idea of adventure without truly venturing out. That's not to say Schierke can't defend herself, far from it, but not in the way Isidro can purely from wit and swordplay. I don't think Schierke herself could be the protagonist in another story, though in some chapters she has been more of a main character than Guts. While Isidro does annoy her more than the rest of the party, he does eventually relent and acknowledge when he's out of his depth. He even comes to her defense in Veritanis, fighting Bonebeard and at some point just accepting she's the smartest person in the room. Schierke taking charge after Enoch Village, being deemed a prodigy as a mage compared to the students on Elfheim, was a natural and understandable progression given everything they'd been through. Even if she has nightmares of him eating her honey. Oh boy, here we go. I should address the elephant in the room when it comes to Schierke. Schierke, like every female party member, is in love with Guts. I won't say this is necessarily a bad thing. He is, after all, the biggest beefcake to ever cake beef, but in some moments it gets kind of uncomfortable. I mean, not to the extent Berserk tends to be uncomfortable, but a bit cringy and almost loliconish in a way. For her, it's excusable due to her youth and inevitably saving Casca, but her also being directly attached to Guts in order for him to properly use the Berserker armor can almost be interpreted as them becoming one. I may be reaching, but sometimes Schierke overshadows a large portion of the cast in terms of importance. I mean, could you imagine if it was just these two and a baby brain Casca? I don't think so. I think I've made my point when it comes to Schierke. Her warmth and inquisitive mind provides each and every person in the party a new outlook on the world to consider, and the potential to cut a path to victory where Guts would have struggled for much longer. A light in the darkness, a prayer to a spirit we desperately needed. These two kids, despite some problems that come with them, are important in Guts' story. They're the future after his journey's end, and part of the reason he'll end that journey. There's probably a version of Berserk in someone's head where Guts simply fought by himself to end Griffith's life. It was probably a darker world with more political corruption and carnal apostles. It was probably just as edgy as the Black Swordsman arc was. Yet, without Schierke or even Isidro coming into Guts' life, we wouldn't have stories like Spring Flowers of Distant Days, where magic is prevalent but not the main source of victory in the situation. Merely a tool to inspire hope for Guts and his journey forward. And now that the journey's continuing, I can't wait to see where he goes next. Thank you for watching.